Welcome back to Leveraging Leadership, where we unpack the art of business leadership. I'm your host, Emily Sander, Chief of Staff turned Executive Leadership Coach. This show is all about finding your points of greatest influence and leveraging them to better serve those around you. Welcome back to Leveraging Leadership. In this episode, I want to give you a framework for delivering feedback. And I've given some previous examples in previous episodes. You can check those out. This is just another tool in your tool belt. So the framework goes like this. You start with someone's virtue. So you list their virtues, and then you describe what they did wrong, and then you let them know what needs to happen going forward, and then you tie it back to their virtues. So here's like a really quick snapshot example. You're a wonderful employee. You're this, this, and this. You have shown up late the last 5 team meetings. Going forward, please show up on time. I know you'll do this because you're such a wonderful employee. So you tie it back to their virtue. This is kind of pulling at the thread of, I don't know if you had this experience as a kid, when a parent says, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed. And you're like, oh my God, like my soul is being crushed. Like, just please be mad at me. It's that sentiment. And you're saying, you're this type of person. So this doesn't make sense. I know you'll be able to do this because you're this type of person. Here's a real life example, or a more of a real life example. Let's say this person is Matt. So Matt, you are a team player. You're a consummate team player, and you care about our customers. You're invested in our customers. You're reliable. You're smart. You're hardworking. I see all of this. I see you. I know you. I know these things about you. In this morning's meeting, you yelled at Tina. And yes, she wasn't here last week, and she didn't have the latest information, latest updates, but you overreacted. Going forward, don't yell at your coworkers. If someone asks for information that's already been covered, remind them of that, remind them where to go to get that information, or let them know you'll follow up with them offline, one-on-one, and then continue the meeting. I know you'll be able to do these things differently because you care so deeply about the team and you go above and beyond for your team members. So that could be an example for Matt there. A few quick things to key in on. First one, critical one. If you don't do this, the whole framework falls apart. At the beginning, when you're listing the virtues, one, you have to know them, but two, you have to actually care about them. Meaning, these are such good qualities. This is why I like coming to work with you every day. This is what makes you special. That sounds cliche, but people like to feel special. So this is why it's so special to work with you. Not in the like, Emily, like this one's real special. This one's real special to work with. Not like that, the good kind of special. But if you can literally feel that and demonstrate that you see them, you know this about them, that frames up the whole thing really well. So truly caring about someone at the beginning, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up there. The second key point is if you have some actual examples of what they do well or when they've done something well, so they've demonstrated the behavior you're looking for, throw that into the conversation. So it could be Matt, look, I know you can do this. I've seen you do this in the product meetings every other Thursday. You lead that meeting and you're so good at facilitating that group conversation. And you know that you're the expert in the room and you just make sure that everyone is following what you're saying. You ask if you're making sense to people and you're very patient with people. I've seen you do this. And sometimes that's all it takes. I've used this tactic where I throw out that example and then I just stop talking. I stop talking and they will fill that space. They will fill that conversation. So Matt might go, oh my gosh, I know, like I didn't have coffee. I had a flat tire. Honestly, Emily, I was pissed because I sent that recap email last week and no one replied with their takeaways. And so when Tina asked me about it, I just kind of snapped and I didn't mean to say that at her. I wasn't mad at her at all. So stop talking, let them fill the space might be a way to move that conversation forward in a positive way where they share and they give information. Sidebar on this is give specific examples. So don't just say, here's what you did wrong, do better, please. Or I've seen you do this well. I know you can do this well, but like just get it back together. Why don't you? Have specific examples to go to, like in the product meetings last Thursday, I saw you do this and like, this is why it was good. All of those types of things, have those teed up and ready to go. Yes, it takes a little forethought and a little planning, but it's so worth it. All right. Third key point here. This is my favorite one. This one works like a freaking charm. It's one of my favorite things to do is you talk about Matt's virtues to other people while he's in the room. So let's say you're in a group conversation and Matt's there, he's hanging out, but you also have Rohit and Cindy and Damien. And you're talking Matt, like, look, you know it, I know it. He goes above and beyond for his team members. Like for new hires, he was welcoming them. For that one client, had that issue, he was like Johnny on the spot, called Carl right away, walked him through with like screenshots, did a share screen, the whole nine yards. Like that's Matt for you. And that does a couple different things. One, you should just be doing this as a leader anyway, talking up your people and complimenting people and talking to the team about what a good team member does and what a good team member looks like and what gets attention and what gets rewarded and all that good stuff. You should be doing that anyway. And it has an added benefit here of Matt is hearing all of this and like, oh, like that's what I'm known for. Like people are talking about me. Like she's talking about me, caring about team members and being invested in the customer. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep doing that more. And hopefully Matt will feel like that is who I am anyway. But it's really cool that people see that and recognize it and call it out to other people. The other way to do this is talk about Matt behind his back and talk about his virtues and what he does well and why it's so special to have Matt on the team when he's not in the room. Again, it's just a good thing for a leader to do. You should be doing that because it's the right thing to do. But also, like that stuff gets back to people. You know it does. Like, hey, like, buddy, like Matt, like, yeah, man, like you get talked up about how you treat customers and how you care about team members, da 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 da. Like people talk about that stuff behind your back. That makes a difference. You've probably experienced this. I know I have, where someone's like, hey, like they know you take care of your customers. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, okay, like that's being seen, that's being heard, that's being acknowledged. Okay, so those are some key points there. This framework can also be used managing up, so managing your boss. Let me think of an example here. Let's say you're a chief of staff and your principal, what does your principal do? What does your principal not do? Your principal does not give feedback to the rest of the executive team. This is one that comes up sometimes. So that conversation might go like this. You could say, "Look, uh, you're a thoughtful leader, and you are invested in talent development, and you also have like a pretty keen eye for what works and what doesn't, and how to play to people's strengths and how to hedge their weaknesses. And I know that's important to you." Recently, people have been coming to you for feedback and they've been asking you point blank for feedback and you've been brushing them off. And people are uneasy and they're not quite sure where they stand. Going forward, what would it look like if we had dedicated feedback loops for people? Or if that doesn't work for you, what would it look like or what would it take to keep this in mind so you can give short, quick feedback in real time after meetings or when you chat with someone in the hall, things like that, because they want some constructive feedback from you. They're looking to you for that guidance. I'm confident that we'll be able to make this adjustment going forward because I know how deeply you care about team members. I know you care about growth and learning, and you're wanting to scale this leadership team with the growth of the company, and you want them to be successful under your leadership. Something like that. And notice here, I changed up a few things. So sometimes you can use things like, what would it look like? Or what would it take to do that? So that's something you could throw in. And then I threw in a we at the end. So instead of, I'm confident that you'll be able to make this adjustment, it's, I'm confident we'll be able to make this adjustment. It makes it a little bit more collaborative. Also, if you're a chief of staff, you might be helping your principal make that adjustment. So you can throw in a we in these types of conversations too. All right. And that overall theme here is the action that you're doing is not worthy of you. It's not worthy of you as a person. I know you as a person, and what you're doing, you're better than that. It's not worthy of you. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Like, oh my gosh, it pulls on that, and it can be very effective. You want to use it in the right ways and use it in the right places, but it can be very, very effective. Oh, okay. So here's an example. I'm rewatching The Crown, the TV show The Crown, which is about Queen Elizabeth II. And in the first two seasons, she's young. So in one of the episodes, she is touring the globe, the Commonwealth, with Prince Philip. And Princess Margaret, her sister, is filling in as regent for her back in London. And Margaret is more flashy and more gregarious and has more of a colorful personality. And the press is picking up on this and writing positive articles about Margaret. So the scene is Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip on tour reading the newspapers. And Queen Elizabeth is getting a little bit jealous of her sister and kind of intimating that I wouldn't mind if she slipped up occasionally while I'm away. And Prince Philip pauses, looks over at her, and says, "That's unlike you. That's unlike you." And Elizabeth says, "I'm sorry." And that's all it takes. And that's all he had to say. "It's unlike you." Oh my goodness. This literally happened to me early in my career. I was stressed out of my mind. I was not handling it well. There was one day and one meeting where I just like jumped the shark. I just like lost it and did not show up well at all for my team. I'm super embarrassed about it. And later that day, my boss came around to my office and he closed the door and he literally said, "Emily, you weren't yourself this morning." And I like lost it. I was like, "I'm so sorry. I was such a shit to people and I know I could do better. And yes, that's not me. That's not what I'm about. That's not what I want to be about and how I want to show up." And he literally just said that line, "Stop talking." And I filled the space with like, "Yes, I was in the wrong. Here's what I'm going to do differently going forward," and all this stuff. So it's unlike you. You weren't yourself this morning. You're better than that. It's not worthy of you. All that stuff works like a freaking charm. So now you have another tool in your tool belt. And with all these tools I'm giving you, apply judgment, right? So this is not the right tool for every single situation. For instance, if you have just met someone, you have no basis for like what their virtue or character is. If you have a new hire, it's like, well, like I know your character to be this, this, and this. They're like, what was your name again? Like, do you think you know me? Type of thing. So use these tools with the appropriate people at the appropriate times in the appropriate circumstances. I'm giving you these so you have like a full tool belt. If you only have a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail. So use these appropriately, apply judgment. That's what you do as a leader. And if you ever need help with that, by the way, just let me know. The most common follow up question I get from these podcast episodes is, "Emily, that framework is great. I have this specific situation. Can you help me apply that to?" And I'm more than happy to. I obviously can't cover every single situation or scenario because there's too many out there. So I give the general framework, but I'm more than happy. I love customizing these and tailoring these to a specific example that you might have. So feel free to shoot me an email at emily@nextlevel.coach or sign up for a free 30-minute clarity call. The link is in the show notes below. But now you have this framework. It works like a charm. And I will catch you next week on Leveraging Leadership.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.